There has been an epidemic on YouTube and on TikTok. Skinwalkers have come. They're real. They're taking over everything. If you've been on the internet at all recently, you have seen on TikTok or YouTube or whatever platform LARP tubers. The whole trend of LARP tubers is, I'm not really going to get into it, but basically there's these people who look, sound, or are just fans of certain YouTubers like Markiplier, and they're making LARP content, kind of trying to replicate their style in an almost like satirical parodying type way. None of them seem to have any ill intention behind it, but it's still kind of weird. It's funny, but it can get weird. And today I wanted to talk about one of the weirder examples, Techno LARP. Uh I was prompted to make this video because I saw on his channel he made a community post, talks about how he basically got doxxed following Moist Critical's video on the whole situation, which is really weird to me because I don't feel like he really deserves any of this, but we're going to get into that. So, Techno LARP is one of these LARP tubers I'm talking about. He's one of the bigger ones for obvious reasons. He sounds a lot like Technoblade and he acts a lot like Technoblade. And obviously, seeing somebody who's capitalizing on this trend, who is parodying a dead YouTuber, is a little weird and is going to catch the attention of a lot of people. But it's the way that it's all been handled that's so weird to me. The community has basically been trying to outcast this guy ever since he uploaded a video in which he plays with Technoblade's friend Skeppy. In this video, Skeppy reaches out to TechnoLARP to make a YouTube video, which has been interpreted by the, outsider audience as TechnoLARP trying to inject himself into Technoblade's personal life and get really close with all of his friends, which is just a crazy misread of this whole situation. Ever since that video, people have kind of turned on TechnoLARP and they've turned to Technoblade's dad and tried to get him involved in the situation. And after a lot of rigorous comments and people trying their hardest to get him involved, he finally responded on Reddit. This was mentioned in Moist Critical's video. He basically has no solid opinion on the whole situation. It's very clear that it makes him uncomfortable. Anything regarding your deceased son would probably make you very uncomfortable. But he basically said in the message on Reddit that he's just trying to ignore it. He's trying to keep to himself, not really think about it, which is totally fair, But TechnoLARP hasn't really stopped his content since then. I mean, he hasn't uploaded very recently, but he hasn't like slowed down. He still posts pretty regularly on his community tab. He keeps up with the persona of Techno LARP, which a lot of people are thinking is really weird, and rightfully so. When the father of the dead guy that you're parodying says that he's uncomfortable and you continue to go with it's kind of weird. But I think a lot of very parasocial people are misreading the situation, which is ironic because if you go on any post about TechnoLARP, it's a bunch of people being like, "Oh, Technoblade would have loved this." Well, we don't know him. That's the most parasocial thing you could say. And it's like, I hope that those people realize that saying that somebody would not like a thing is also parasocial. We don't know Technoblade at all. Not a single person in his audience has ever met the guy. We don't know him. And that's the thing that people are forgetting about this. We never got to know him whatsoever. And I think it's weird that we're pulling his opinion into this in the first place when he's deceased. He's no longer with us. His opinion has no value. The real value is from his, friends and family, his dad. And there's a bunch of people in, that Minecraft YouTuber community who have come out and said that the LARP tuber situation makes them very uncomfortable. I think Tubbo has said something about it. A bunch of people have voiced very uncomfortable opinions about it. But for some reason, it all comes back to solely Technolarp. Like I said, Moist Critical made his video talking about the whole situation, and for some reason that prompted a lot of his community to go and dox Technolarp, which is really really weird. And it's just like, why is that the response to to go and dox this guy when it's not really his fault? There's multiple people who have larped Technoblade. I wouldn't even say that Technolarp is the worst of these guys. There's a guy who's larping Wilbur Soot, a domestic abuser. Like, okay, that's really weird behavior, but nobody has called that guy out. But the way the community and the audience has been reacting to this is the weirdest part, because they're throwing solely Technolarp under the bus for playing with Skeppy. And what's crazy about that to me is, like I said earlier, Skeppy is the one who initially reached out to him. Technolarp even says in his video about Skeppy that he found it really weird that Skeppy would reach out and message him. It's very clear that the initial intention of Technolarp was to just kind of do his own thing. He does a lot of streams with the other LARP tubers. He's made videos with Larpin Z0, which is the parody of Moist Critical. It's very clear he's been trying to keep to himself. And I will admit, it's a little strange to continue doing this whole thing after the whole Technodad Reddit post, because while Technodad didn't say no, waiting for a yes that's not really right either. But I think that both Technodad, this is my perspective on it, I think that both Technodad and Technolarp understand that at this point there's kind of an audience for this stuff, and it's kind of just hard to just pump the brakes on it fully, because a lot of these people aren't coming here because he's replacing Technoblade. They're coming here because they miss this style of content, the monetary voice, the dry humor, the Minecraft content. And I think that trying to avoid the parasocial stance, I think personally it's possible Technoblade's dad sees that. He, more than anybody, wants Technoblade's legacy to live on. He knows the massive outreach that his son has had, and this guy Technolarp is a part of that legacy. I think the reason possibly why he hasn't directly said no is because, in a weird way, this is kind of continuing Technoblade's legacy, whether we like it or not. Because I think that what the audience doesn't really understand is Technoblade is a character. The persona Technoblade, the pig with the crown that plays Bed Wars and stuff, that's a persona. The guy, Alex, that's a real person. And people are kind of treating Technolarp like he's trying to fully replace person Alex. They're acting like he's broken into his home and is calling Technodad dad and living in Technoblade's old room and playing on his computer and eating breakfast and hanging out with his siblings. And it's like, that's just not it at all. This is just some guy making content in a similar vein to Technoblade. And I just don't get the hate behind it. I, as much as anybody, think it's weird. Technoblade was my favorite YouTuber for the longest time. But I just don't think it's really fair to single out this one guy just because he's parodying a deceased YouTuber, because it's very clear he has no ill intent. It would be very different if, like I said, he was being pretty malicious about it and trying to forcibly, I keep using this word, but inject himself into the life of Technoblade's friends and family. He hasn't done that. He's stuck in his own lane. He's been doing his own thing. I think the logical solution to all of this is to probably just stop. That would be the safest for Technolarp and his family, and it would be the most healthy for everybody involved. Skeppy, Technodad, Technolarp, all of them would benefit from Technolarp just stop. But I don't think that this guy should be blacklisted from the YouTube community just because of this whole situation. Like, people are trying to make it be with doxing him and treating him in this pretty harsh way. If Technolarp is really serious about content creation, I think that he should just make his own channel and have it be in a similar vein to Technoblade, not parodying or have any relation to the Technoblade brand whatsoever. Just, you know, his own thing. And in the end, that's what started this all in the first place. This guy just sounds and acts a little bit like Technoblade, coincidentally. We've seen that there's an audience for those people who are looking for content like Technoblade. So I think it would be in everybody's best interest to just hang up the Technolarp thing and just move on to something else, and or just stop in general. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I think that the way the audience has handled this is really weird. I think that it's gone a little too far. The joke's already dead anyways. But yeah, I just wanted to make a video talking about it because I thought it was pretty interesting, and that post was kind of a lot. And pretty unfair to this Technolarp guy. But yeah, that's about it. So yeah.